can start a podcast where we'll talk about Marvel Comic Universe, and I'll explain that whole thing and what I think should happen, and I'll compare it to the comic book world, which is a lot of fun. I've got 40 years of experience with the comic book world, so. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. As you can hear a little bit of the conversation we had before that. My partner in crime here, Sean Williams, saw Infinity War, and the first thing he says to me is, all right, you got to explain something. What the hell was that about at the end of the film?
Throw me under the bus.
Yeah, no, that's all right. There's times where, there are certain football players, teams, and opponents I'd love to be able to go and just watch them disappear.
Yeah, we do play New England every night.
I don't have that power.
Can I begin our show tonight by saying that, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, all
Romans,
of our viewers,
countrymen.
Yeah, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear. CTE is a real thing. If you do not need any more of a living example of that, look at former NFL quarterback Chris Sims. If you don't think that brain injuries are real, search the internet for Chris Sims' list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now, and you'll understand fully.
Yeah, but he didn't hurt his head playing football. He hurt his head when his doctor dropped him on it. I mean, he went to spank his butt to make him breathe, and he accidentally smacked him in the head because they're one and the same. I mean, what happens is you got these guys that they got to stand out. So they got to pull these lists out just to get people to talk about this stuff. I said this in a chat somewhere. I said it's like a top 40 list. You got to talk about the trendy players. You got to talk about the fun stuff. Because if you go, every single list has Tom Brady, Drew Brees,
Aaron Rodgers,
Ben Roethlisberger. You just go down the same list every time. You don't stand out. So you got to put together, for lack of a better term, an asshole list. Where you put together a list where people are like, what the hell? You start listing players like Cam Newton, who completes less than 60% of his passes. You start throwing in guys. Oh, then the trendy guys. We're going to throw in, I don't know. We won't include, anybody that hasn't played in a couple of years. So Andrew Luck doesn't go on the list. But you throw in some kind of trendy person. Like we'll throw in, I can't even think of who he had on this list. But
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. Cam Newton was the one that blew me away. Even though Cam Newton won an MVP, Cam Newton as a passer now, we're talking about passers, is not on a top 10 list. As an athlete or a player, I can see that, but not as a passer.
I'm trying to find it now. No, I don't want the video.
Oh, he threw in. Didn't he throw in Jameis Winston?
No, Winston is the only NFC South quarterback to not make the list. He had, if I'm going off of memory here, he had Aaron Rodgers number 1, which I suppose if you really wanted to, that would be debatable. Here we go. Hang on.
Yeah, I got it right here too.
Aaron Rodgers, number 1, didn't even play played maybe half the season a year ago. Russell Wilson, playing on perhaps the worst offense in the league, number 2. Tom Brady, okay, I'll give you that one. He's earned that one.
Blake Bortles he had on there, didn't he?
No.
Oh.
Number 4, Matt Stafford. Never won a playoff game. Number 5, Carson Wentz. Didn't play an entire season a year ago. Ben Roethlisberger, number 6. Okay, maybe Ben's earned it. Number 7, Cam Newton. No. Number 8, Deshaun Watson. Played, 4 games a year ago?
That was the one that was a trendy one. I was trying to think of who is the trendy quarterback he had on there. Yeah, Deshaun Watson, played 4 games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 9, Matt Ryan. No. Number 10, Drew Brees. And my buddies at 97.7 locally here, Sean Fox took that on today, and he had to preface it by saying, I'm going to use curse words, so I'll give you a warning in 3, 2, 1. And he said that Chris Sims was an asshole, or excuse me, was a dumbass. I'm going to say he's an asshole because he's bowing his knee and he's bowing to the trendy media, blah, 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 of trying to promote all these other guys that may be relevant in some circles, but you guys are going to, I'm reminded of that scene in Rocky 2 where Apollo Creed is talking to Brent Musburger, oddly enough, NFL tie-in there. He's talking to me. He said, you're going to see the real Apollo Creed. Lightning fast, no jiving. This year you're going to see exactly what Drew Brees brings to the table. And I put forth to you guys something that Alan can attest to. I have said this from the very beginning. Drew Brees is absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the absolute most underrated quarterback that wears a Super Bowl ring in the history of this league. And to me, that is bar none. He is given absolutely no respect, and probably a month, 5 to 6 weeks into the season, he is going to break the all-time passing yardage record. And everyone says, well, he didn't win Super Bowls. He didn't win. Well, I promise you, for every ring that Tom Brady has, Drew Brees has his own chapter in the record books. And I think that people like this simpleton dumbass Chris Sims doing idiotic, careless stuff like this just further perpetuates the myth that Drew Brees is not worthy of both admiration and respect. Real quick.
Yeah.
I got to
pay the bills. Yeah.
We want to thank Fan First Productions for being our sponsor. We want to invite you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. We love our followers. We love to interact with you guys. You can reach us on Facebook, on Twitter, just any way that you have to get in touch with us, please do. Let me see. Actually, we had a Saturday night special this past week. We not only got to see
in my head.
Mr. Saturday Night. Anyway, I'm not going to start singing. That's a completely different podcast. But not only did we get to see the Saints play, but we got to see the magical unveiling of Marcus Davenport. The big Davenport reveal. And before I throw it to Alan, I think that Davenport showed out. Man, that play where he just kind of reached out and grabbed a hold to that San Diego running back and said,
"No, it was a receiver. That was Benjamin."
It was on an end around.
Yeah.
When I saw the play, it immediately reminded me, and people like me, the short bus people, everything equates to a Looney Tunes cartoon. I in my mind immediately went to that Yosemite Sam, where he's riding the camel and he jumps off and starts running alongside with the gun. And he said, "When I say whoa, I mean whoa."
Yeah.
Man, he showed a lot of athleticism on that play. He had limited snaps due to the fact that he hasn't seen any action yet during this preseason, but I can see definite signs of him being worth the price that we paid for him. Now, I'm not going to jump on the huge feel good bandwagon and say that I think he's fully worth it. We won't know that, or at least in my mind, we won't have that done or that decision reached for another year now, maybe. Hopefully. I believe that our defense is really over the Jacksonville and the Arizona and now the San Diego Chargers game. I like what I'm seeing out of the defense, the progression that we're seeing out of them, especially up front on defense. I'll get to that in a minute. Alan, what do you think about Davenport?
Well, let me say one thing real quick. Talking about that list, go back to that list real quick. My opinion is this: that Deshaun Watson has no business being on any kind of list right now because he only played 4 games. You got to play 16 games. Yes, I know he got hurt, and yes, he showed a lot of promise before he got hurt. But let's build a resume before we go and put him on top 10 lists of quarterbacks. He's an exciting player as a player to watch. That's one thing. Put him on a list of players to watch. But, he doesn't belong on a top 10 list. He has to earn that, and he hasn't earned it yet. There's lots of other quarterbacks I'll put on that list before him. So, to me, aside from the stupid rankings, the fact that he had that guy in there to begin with over players like, say a Russell Wilson or someone, people who've actually done something, you got to take him off the list. He's a player to watch. It's like his rookie season all over again because he's now starting as a starter, but he's got to do something. So that being said, that was my biggest. The rankings aside, because Drew Brees is always going to be ranked low because he plays for a small market team, and he plays for a team that doesn't have the history of a small market team like the Packers. Go
ahead and say it. He plays for a team that is not supposed to win at all.
Yes, he plays for a team that despite being in the league 50 years, is viewed as a second-tier NFL team, not a major market team. They
were a feel-good story when there was a hurricane and the region was blah, blah, blah. But, as long as we're paying the bills and we have to make something of this, let's follow our storylines. The teams that are supposed to be relevant are the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots.
It's the NFC East. It's the Cowboys, the Giants, the Redskins, the Eagles. It's the AFC West. It's the Raiders, the Broncos, the Chargers. And even though they're not major media markets, they're still important teams. The Jets should be relevant. The Steelers, teams that have the Vikings, the teams that have long established histories of being great teams with a lot of players in the Hall of Fame and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's where the Miami Dolphins need to be relevant again for the league, because that's Shula, that's Don Shula, it's all those, Dan Marino. So, if I guarantee if Breeze had not come here and done all these same things that he is doing in New Orleans, in Miami, he'd be in the top 3 all the time. It'd be guaranteed all the time. I mean, because there's no way He would not be because he's playing for the Miami Dolphins, okay, instead of the lowly Saints. You know, is that? Am I being a homer? Am I being provincial? Yeah, probably. But
No,
same
I don't think
time,
so at all.
at the same time, I'm aware of how the league has traditionally viewed a team like the Saints. So, um, it's not the same level of respect and interest. I keep knocking this
People
thing.
always call me a homer whenever I talk about the Saints, but I want you to stop it and think about the reality of the situation. When the New Orleans Saints defied the odds and went from being not even a playoff team to being a Super Bowl champion, the credit that they gave for that, the league gave them that because of Hurricane Katrina.
Oh,
That
sure.
that was the overriding narrative that was placed on
That
these men for
they
working.
throw that at you, and they throw the bounty stuff at you. You
Yeah,
know, you got it because you have bounties. Well, you know what? Bounties have existed for a long, long time, so I don't want to hear that crap because it was cool in 1995 when the Packers and the Patriots went to the Super Bowl. They talked about the Smash for Cash program and that kind of stuff, but they didn't have bounties. Did not win that championship. Katrina did not win that championship. They're going to win a championship. They should have got it in 2006 for Katrina.
I've gone on
That,
record before as saying bounties did not win that Lombardi Trophy. Sexual
no,
predators did.
well, yeah, we don't need to go there. We
Oh
don't need to
wow,
go there, but
we just went from prime time to after dark, didn't we? I'm sorry.
yeah. But anyway, you asked me about Davenport. My opinion on Davenport, I was very optimistic after I saw him play. There were some things he obviously needs to do better. Stopping the run, not getting caught in the wash, and things like that. But you saw the raw athletic power. You you saw him aggressively play the ball. When he did shed blocks, you saw some good stuff out of him. We spent 2 first-round draft picks on Mark Ingram. People forget about that. In 2011, we burned off our first-round draft pick to trade back into the 2011 draft because Cam Jordan was our only pick. And then we traded back in and took Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's about to become the Saints' all-time leading rusher. We don't even worry about that first-round pick anymore from 2012. Okay? So, here's my opinion is this. If Davenport turns out to be the Saints' all-time pass rusher or turns out to be a fantastic bookend to Cam Jordan and they're destroying offenses, people are not going to pay attention to the 2 picks we gave up. Well, the extra first-round pick we gave up to get him. So, there's a lot of football left to be seen with Davenport. There's a lot left going, just for this year to see his progression from game 1 to game 16 that, I'm just optimistic about what I've seen. I'm not going to pass judgment over what kind of player I think he's going to be, but it was very exciting to see what he did do out there. He is not a Jonathan Sullivan. He is not a Sean Knight. He is not a guy that goes out there and, man, did anybody even see if he was on the field? Did he notch a tackle? Did he do anything? No, he made his presence known when he was out there. And when he saw something, he recognized and did it.
Well,
and that's a good thing.
I think that they're. I'm trying to think of how to word this correctly that I don't sound ugly. I think that there's a certain due respect necessary for knowing that he is aware of the people that are sitting there going, okay, let me see now. We gave up all of this for him. Let's see what he's going to. Being aware of the expectation level placed on him and knowing that he needed preseason game or not, he needed to make an impact and go back to Bull Durham here, but announce his presence with authority. I think that the jury, like I said, my jury on Marcus Davenport is going to be out until I see his body of work over his rookie season, over his rookie and second season.
Yeah.
But unlike that, I think that maybe, and I'm torn here, maybe the most improved from the as I said earlier, the Jacksonville, Arizona, and now game, or excuse me, Chargers game, maybe the most improved. This is really a toss up to me. Is either going to be, believe it or not, Tom Savage or David Onyemata.
You know, just to close the book a little bit on Davenport, what we said about him. Keep in mind, you know, he's 21 years old. He's not even 23. He's 21. Okay? Most players coming out of the draft to play in the NFL are 23 years old. So he has a lot of growth he can do. You know, we're just seeing the raw athleticism right now. There's so much, the ceiling for him is so high. You can see why the Saints jumped on him. And the problem for a lot of fans who are looking at this from the standpoint of, is he worth 2 first-round picks? They're looking at it from the short-term point of view. In other words, is he ready to come in, step in, give us 10 sacks, and get us to the Super Bowl this year? He's not that player. He is not, and it's very hard to find a player like that. Even the players at the top of the draft, the Nick Chubbs and those kind of guys, probably aren't going to give you that right out of the box. You're lucky if you can find somebody who is a 3-down impact guy who can play the run and rush the passer and be a polished defensive end straight out of college. So when you take in a guy who's 21 years old, who is still growing into his 6'7", 267-pound body. Boy, I sound like Gene Wilder and Young Frankenstein. You telling me I put an abnormal brain into a 6'9", 60-inch wide gorilla? Is that what you're telling me? You know? But yeah, he's 6'7", 267. So there's so much more. His body is going to get bigger, and he's going to get stronger and smarter. I mean, you know, how could you not be excited for this kid? It's just really. He's not going to be a gorilla. He's going to be an incredible football player if he develops properly.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think that it's worth noting that due to your David Onyemata, due to your Hendrickson, due to your Cam Jordan, Davenport is in a really unique position in that he does not have to make that transition from number 1 draft pick with the added plus bonus, whatever, that you traded next year's draft for. He doesn't have to make that transition into being the be-all, end-all nearly so quickly because of the situation the defense is in.
Yeah, and that's leading into the next thing. You're talking about most improved players. You know, Trey Hendrickson clearly is taking that next step as a pass rusher. He's still pretty weak on the run, and we saw that in San Diego again, just like we saw with Arizona, just like we saw in Jacksonville. They were in this vanilla defense they've been running. You know, they've been able to get a lot of, you know, over 4 yards a carry running the ball against us, and they've been able to do it a lot by breaking to the outside. So, and that's where you're seeing the weakness of a Hendrickson. He's more of a pass rusher. He's improved his pass rushing skills at this point. Yes, he is not getting to the quarterback. You're seeing the second and third team getting sacks, so you're not seeing the first team get sacks. But the point is, he's showing much better closing speed, that the sacks will come. But it's more to being a defensive end in the NFL than just getting sacks. It's about being able to play the run. That's where we're seeing a weakness there. The fortunate thing is, yes, we've seen David Onyemata play better. He is in his third year. He's taking that next step forward. You're seeing him have a bigger impact pushing that pocket. You're seeing Sheldon Rankin step up. He's having a better impact pushing that pocket. That when the defense is starting to show a game plan and you're starting to see them act more in concert together as opposed to these fancy dress rehearsals where they're really just counting snaps. They're not going to be out there long enough for them to really develop a feel for the game. You'll see a better pass rush out of these guys, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The thing that's disappointing, though, is we're not seeing the good run defense. Demario Davis is a guy who I've watched a lot. You're seeing a lot of that speed. He's in position to make the tackle, but he's not bringing him down. That needs to get better. That has to get better. I want to see the linebackers do a much better job making tackles, ending the play. We saw that last year. We haven't seen it this year. Last year, I could tell you there was a lot of games where we saw Anzalone, we saw Klein, we saw players like that make the tackle, bring the guy down right there, no yards after the catch, no broken tackles where guys were getting extra yards out of that. We haven't seen that in the defense this year, so that's got to get better when we start playing for real.
I absolutely agree. And one thing that I'm not going to pump sunshine up anybody's bunghole, but as excited as I was to finally see Davenport play, and how impressed I was with the progression of Tom Savage, who's actually setting his feet now to make his throws. David Onyemata, what was obviously your ones versus ones, I didn't like what I saw out of the defense. Now, yes, Marcus Williams, number 2, got a pick 6 against somebody that probably won't be in the league in a month from now. And I hate that for Geno Smith, but, you want fries with that order? Anyway, I want to see our defense be better, and I have absolutely no reservations that they will be better once it's for real. Once all the shackles are broken loose, and we're doing this thing for real. I really, with all due respect to my man Gene, I really think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into the Superdome at a marked disadvantage without their starting quarterback is going to be an opportunity for the psyche of the Saints to be affected. I really believe that.
I need to see the defense set the edge better and turn plays back to the inside and guys staying in lanes and make the tackles. That's what I need to see. I saw some of that against San Diego, but not consistently, and not everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. I saw guys trying, loop in, do stunts in, instead of going back to the outside and making the back turn back in, because that's where our weakness is. Some people are saying it's up the middle. It's not so much up the middle. I'm seeing it's the B gaps and the C gaps. I'm seeing a lot more yardage picked up that way. And the B gaps and the C gaps, that's your defensive ends. That's the outside shoulder, your defensive tackles next to your defensive ends. That's where I'm seeing they're picking up the yardage. And the B gap is linebackers. They're the ones that have to close that B gap and the C gap too. They have to flow float with the defense and start filling in all the little areas so we can, make these guys go back and take away that cutback lane. And when you make them go east-west instead of north-south, then your defense can swarm, gang tackle, and bring them down. And that's the issue I'm seeing right now. We're not going to see an improvement Thursday night. Thursday night is the night of, okay, who are the last guys who aren't going to make this team? And who are the guys on the other side of the field that we want to look at and possibly pick up to go put on our team? And that's what all the teams in the league are going to be doing. They're going to be looking at other teams' rosters more than their own rosters to see who can we pick up that's an upgrade from what we have right now as far as depth, as far as maybe a starter. Sean Payton, I heard on the radio today, give an interview where he said that, people have been saying a lot, hey, Sean, this is the deepest team that you've ever had. And Sean's like, there's some areas we need to get better at. And I know one of them he's thinking of right up top of my head is tight end. I know he's going to be looking at a tight end upgrade. I think he might be looking at maybe a linebacker too. I know he has not been happy with his wide receiving core.
Did I lose you? Okay, well, I will pick up the ball right there. Things that need to be improved on. Yes, I would love to see more production out of the tight end position. Ben Watson is great. Going back and looking over the history, I believe that was 2015 when Watson was here, was fantastic. If that's the Ben Watson that we get back, great. If not, we seriously need to upgrade that. I don't think that pass defense is going to be nearly the liability that it was. I Are we good? Okay, well, I'm hoping that I'm live, but I'm gonna go right ahead just as though I am. It says live, so we're gonna just kind of go as we're obviously experiencing some technical issues. Um, I want to see more production from the pass defense on the intermediate routes against opponents' tight ends in the flats and so on. I don't really like what I'm seeing in terms of uh, throwing the little flare pass to the running back in the flats and seeing him turn it into a 10, 15-yard gain. Uh, Outside of that, I really, as I said earlier, I really like what I'm seeing out of this defense. Now, offensively, I can't say enough about the emergence of Traquan Smith and exactly what that means to this team. You lost one of the greatest slot receivers that this team has ever ever had in Willie Snead. And going from 1,000-yard receiver down to a 5-catch guy really affected this team. And I sincerely believe. Are we back?
That was the weirdest thing ever happened in my life, and I
It's
freaked out.
Thanos.
I tell you what, somebody snapped their fingers and my computer just died. So I don't know what the hell just happened, but I think it's my power source. And I was checking my battery source. My battery is, it's recharging now. So apparently I did not. Yeah, I only have 1%. Oh my God. All right.
So we may go through this again.
No, you won't, because I went through it. I plugged in a different outlet.
Well, I was just telling everyone my basic through 3 preseason games, my basic evaluation. Our pass defense looks good. I would like better production against the intermediate passing routes, tight ends, running backs in the flats, and swing passes, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, I really like what I'm seeing with the emergence of Traquan Smith. And I would not at all be surprised. I didn't get to this. This is just kind of what I'm adding now. I would not be at all surprised to see Traquan Smith surpass Cam Meredith on the depth chart in terms of getting snaps going into week 1.
Yeah, that's one of the things we need. Well, you got to remember Traquan Smith is a rookie too. So, he has a very limited route tree he can run right now. So you have to kind of take that into consideration. He's a slot guy right now. He's not ready to play the X, that Michael Thomas plays. Whereas, Cameron Meredith and Ted Ginn Jr. can play the X if they had to, when Michael Thomas moves to the slot. So, that is a weakness for him right now. Austin Carr has got the advantage of all the receivers because Austin Carr has been in the system for a year, even though he hardly played. He's been in the system for the year, so he should know the offense well enough to play all the routes.
I'll be honest with you. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll be honest with you, Alan. Cam Meredith, and I'm saying this from the experience of having been in that position before. Mm-hmm. Cam Meredith strikes me a lot as being a guy that wants to be there, that wants to make that play, but he's just not sure of that knee yet.
Yeah, and he's thinking more than he's playing.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to allude to.
Well, it's not just his knee. He's thinking about the offense and his routes he needs to run because he's missed a lot of time with various injuries. So, that'll come. That'll come. It's kind of why I think, the Saints will probably stick with 6 wide receivers instead of 5 because they're going to have to keep that 6th receiver available if Cameron Meredith isn't ready to play yet. Because I've got Brandon Tate making this roster as a kick returner. Brandon Tate can offer you very little as a receiver, but he's your kick returner.
Sure.
So he's got the 5th spot locked up. So now the question is, a 6th receiver, if we're going to go 6 receivers, then it's possible that Cameron Meredith may be inactive, and a guy like Austin Carr is playing as your 4th receiver. You have Ted Ginn and Michael Thomas. Then you've got Traquan Smith now coming in as the 3rd receiver in the slot. Austin Carr coming in as the 4th receiver. So there's things that they can do. They have options they didn't have last year. Uh-oh, did you just unplug yourself? Now it's his turn. I'm telling you, turned yourself off.
No, I'm here. I touched the little infinity crystal on my necklace here.
There you go, the Mind Stone.
I think one thing that people don't realize, I've seen all these evaluations on especially the competition at running back. Jonathan Williams, Boston Scott, Shane Vereen. What people don't really grasp the reality of is that position is going to be contested for the next 4 weeks because come September 9th, I believe, Mark Ingram becomes inactive. So he's not factored into the equation. We've already released Terrence West, so that's not a factor in it. Given the other three options in Williams, which, by the way, that is such a Saints name. I just wanted to throw that out there. Boston Scott and Shane Vereen. I think that Williams has put together too good a resume to ignore in this preseason. I really do. So it comes down to a choice between Vereen and Boston Scott. You got one guy that has the resume and one that is a rookie but has probably, all things considered, shown out more on the field. So you got a guy that is going to tell you, this is what I'm bringing to the table, or versus a guy that's going to show you what he's got to offer. That's going to be a toss-up. In my book, it's Boston Scott every time.
Well, and that's the thing I was going to get to. As far as Ingram's carries, and I was writing down a couple of things. Ingram, I think, averages like 17 touches a game, 17 or 18 touches a game. So you're probably going to see Ingram's touches split in half between Williams and Scott. And Williams is going to have to show up in this last preseason game. He's going to, behind that second string offensive line, maybe the first string might be there together for the first couple series, but he's going to have to show up and show he's getting some good positive yardage, show he can do a little pass protection, show he can try and catch the ball a little bit. People have been asking, how come the tight ends aren't involved in this offense a lot? That's not what we're evaluating right now. What we're evaluating is whether or not these backs can be factors, these running backs can be factors in the passing game. We've seen Boston Scott show he is a factor in the passing game. Not so much as a blocker, but as a catcher, pass catcher. So I think you'll see Boston Scott get a lot of touches in the game. Maybe some of the touches Alvin Kamara would pick up too. In the passing game, I'm talking about, not as a runner so much as a passing game, where Kamara may be a decoy and Scott's the one catching the screen pass and going somewhere with it, or that swing pass. But Williams is going to have to show some development there too, because he is going to have to show not only can he pass block, but he can catch the ball, so you can keep the defense off balance. Because the whole secret of the Saints offense is having the same personnel out there, but being able to do multiple things with that personnel. Not just run the football or just pass the ball, but be able to shift and change things up based on whatever the defense is going, where Drew Brees sees his mismatch, where Sean Payton sees his mismatch in the defense, and he can exploit that with backs, with tight ends, or with receivers. So, Jonathan Williams is somebody who's going to have to step up in this next preseason game and finally secure that spot away from Shane Vereen, because Shane Vereen, we already know is a factor in the passing game. He's just not a factor in the running game.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Okay, you alluded to that. Mm-hmm. Another player that I think needs to either step up or risk being cut. Wow. You took one of mine. I'm gonna say Cam Meredith.
I don't think that. I really don't think they'll cut him. I really
Well,
don't.
I was going to to say that again. Due to the money that they've invested in him, they can't really cut him. Now they can go the route of what they did with Austin Carr a year ago. They can retain him and keep him injured reserve, pup list, practice squad for a year.
No. They
Um,
just inactivate him all season, but I can't see that either.
yeah,
I'll tell you a guy who I think needs to step up, or he's gone, is PJ Williams.
I
Um,
I would have said him, but I
mhm.
think that PJ Williams is already gone. And the
uh,
reason that I say that, how much of him did you see against San Diego?
yeah.
Everyone calls the third preseason game the quote unquote dress rehearsal.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't see him for not a single snap against the Chargers.
Well, he's coming off that rib injury. He did practice that week, but they could have held him out for that. But we'll see if he plays his fourth preseason game. If he doesn't play at all, then yeah, the handwriting's on the wall and he's gone.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of competition now. Arthur Millette didn't play in that third preseason game either, but he
No.
was injured.
Yes.
Marcus Williams the second, Marcus Williams cornerback, did play. And he kind of made a statement, I guess, that he is not just a warm body for training camp. He wants to try and compete for the job. But, he has got a lot of people ahead of him. Jameson is one. Hardy's another. Those are guys. He's got a lot of people that leapfrog. But, PJ Williams, if he wants to stick around, is going to have to make some plays in this preseason game. He is a guy I can see is in danger of being cut. My favorite person, whose name I mispronounce constantly, number 44. He has a good shot.
Kikaha.
Kikaha has a good shot of not making this team
Uh,
because
I'm gonna put myself out there again. Kikaha, PJ Williams, probably one of those linebackers, special teams guys. Stupar.
yeah.
I given the, and I don't mean to be. I don't mean to low rate these guys, but that's just the level of talent that we have in training camp right now. PJ Williams played subpar last year. Yes, he got an interception, but at times proved to be a liability during the 17 season. Kikaha spent a lot of time hurt, and the time on the field, you went from sacking the quarterback to, do we have anybody in there?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, the defense changed on him. He was drafted to be an outside linebacker or that elephant player in that Rob Ryan defense. And he's not. He's a tweener. He's not big enough to be a defensive end, and he's not fast enough as a linebacker to drop off in coverage. He's a liability there too. He's a pass rusher in a 3-4 scheme, or a 3-4 hybrid scheme. And you realize now, if those two guys get cut, that means only one guy from that entire 2015 draft class is still on the team, and that's Andres Pete, the guy everybody hated when they picked him 13th. And he will turn out to be the best.
The next morning, I was on a radio show out of, I want to say, Lafayette. And the guy said, well, the Saints drafted Pete. What do you think? I said, I think that it was a fantastic pick. The Saints need help on the offense. and he was like, "You're," and I mean, he just panned everything that I said.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that I said in that interview is, "Well, time will tell if I'm right or not."
Well, to me, he was the safest pick. Because I still believe to this day, I believe they were targeting Danny Shelton, who
Yes.
Cleveland picked at number 12. They wanted that nose tackle, that big run stuffer right there at nose guard. And they didn't get him. So they went and took Pete, who was a safe pick. And people are like, why the hell are they drafting a tackle? And
well, that goes right back to your quote of several shows now. Everybody wants the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, but nobody likes it when you draft them.
yeah, it's not sexy, but it works.
Yeah.
And
the New Orleans Saints have quietly and unassumedly assembled one of, by miles, one of the most underrated and underappreciated offensive line units in this league.
Yeah. Ryan Ramczyk was a great pick. And again, it's just a matter of luck on that because clearly Ryan Ramczyk was not the guy they had targeted there. Reuben Foster was. And Reuben Foster, of course, got selected by the 49ers. So we pick up Ryan Ramczyk, and we were lucked out there too. Because
yes, we did.
What would have happened if we would have taken Danny Shelton and then Reuben Foster as opposed to Pete and Ramczyk? What kind of team would we have then? Probably not as good. In fact, I know we wouldn't have as good of a team.
Yeah, because Foster would be in prison by now.
Yeah. It's the luck of the draw so much in the draft. You can plan,
sure.
you can plan. But the secret of the draft always is you get the right player that falls to you, that is in the right system, and he has the internal motor to do the things you want to do. This guy right here, 41, Kamara, he is a guy that fell to us. It was in the right system, and everybody wanted, and I was one of them that wanted Joe Mixon because I thought Joe Mixon was going to be able to do the things that Kamara does. Mixon, yeah, he's probably going to break out in San Diego and have a pretty good year, but he wasn't Rookie of the Year. He wasn't the instant impact player. So, so much of it is the luck of the draw. I'm very hesitant to make judgments about drafting draft picks when the day after or the year of their first year. I'm very hesitant to make a lot of judgments on players because you don't know who's going to work out and who doesn't. It usually takes about 3 years for those draft picks to mature. Then you can go back and look at, we're now in year 3 for the 2015 draft. And we're talking right now about 2 guys who might not make the team. So we only have 1 guy left, and he's part of the best offensive line the Saints have ever assembled. So
I completely agree.
That judgment shows that, you know what? The guy everybody hated on draft day, he was your best player. So shows how much people know for those instant draft grades. All right, let's talk about him. The Taysom Hill hype train. John Fourcade II had a great game against backups.
Tim Tebow is alive and well.
Tim Tebow, the taller version of taller, better passer version of Tim Tebow, had a good game against second and third teamers. He really did. He bounced back nicely, but he ran more than he threw. And I have to give him credit. The Saints' first team offense did not look very good against San Diego in that first quarter. And
no, they didn't.
It was really the fourth down fake punt where I think Hill must have been the up back. I wasn't paying that close attention to the game.
He was.
But I know the ball went to Hill, and he ran it for the first down. So, once again, Hill's a great athlete. That's unquestionable. He's a great athlete. But he's not an NFL quarterback yet. Yeah, it's exciting to watch him run around and playground, sandlot football. Play breaks down. He takes off. He's the fastest guy on the field. But that kind of stuff isn't he's not going to be able to get away with that against first teamers. Joey Bosa is going to be able to run him down. Marvin Ingram's going to run him down. Then he might break outside once or twice, but people are going to start getting that stuff on film and knowing what he likes to do, and they're going to take that away from him, and they're going to make him throw the ball. And once again, we saw, and I'm trying to get people to understand this. Once again, we saw the erratic mechanics of Taysom Hill. He does not have a consistent release point. The ball doesn't always come at the place it's supposed to go. Sometimes the ball's here, sometimes it's here. One of the things about Drew Brees is if Drew Brees wants to put that ball on your back shoulder, it's coming right to your back shoulder where only you can catch the ball. Taysom Hill isn't going to do that, and it's because Drew Brees works so hard at his accuracy and that's critical for a timing-based offense that the Saints have, where Brees is throwing to a spot. He can't even see that. He can't even see where he's putting the ball half the time. At least he takes a very deep drop to see those deep opening receivers. But he understands the game to the extent of, and this is the key to the West Coast offense, he knows exactly where the player is going to be and where the defensive back is going to be on a play. So he's putting the ball to a spot, not to a man. And that's the hardest part for people to understand when they watch a football game. Like, look at the interception he did throw, okay? You're thinking to yourself, what the hell is he doing? It's double coverage. Why is he throwing in double coverage? Because he is throwing to a spot on the field. If the ball comes out late, the safety has time to break on the ball and close in. When you see Drew Brees put that ball in a spot where a guy's hand just misses or a defensive back just is a step behind, that is the design of the offense. The offense is designed to get that ball out at a certain time, and it goes to a spot at a certain time when they know the coverage is changing. Okay? A cornerback is only going to follow a guy so far in a zone defense. He'll stop and pass him off to the next guy who is closing into that spot. So you have a window, a small area where that ball can be, and it's based on time. You know how much time it takes for a defensive back to close. You know how much time you have before that defensive back passes off the guy to the next guy. That's when you release the ball, and the ball has to be at that spot at that moment. That's precision passing. That's how this offense works. And to do this at this kind of level consistently, and to consistently produce the kind of yardage that this team produces offensively, that takes very consistent mechanics that Taysom Hill simply does not have right now. He is pulling plays out of his butt. He really is. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to see that
technical analysis.
That's what it is, because that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing plays break down and guys freelancing. That's why you see defensive coordinators lose their mind about what's going on out there when you see guys freelancing or guessing what they think they got to do instead of doing what the defense calls for. And
you saw the same thing Tim Tebow's rookie year when he was running around all over the place making plays. Then teams got film on him. You saw Colin Kaepernick running around, making all sorts of plays, doing that RPO offense, rode it all the way to the Super Bowl. They had the entire off season to get film on him and to study on him. You never saw him do it again. That the window of opportunity for that to succeed is so small.
Mm-hmm. It really is. They sit there and they pore over the film and they look at everything and they have everything timed out so they know what you like to do. They look at your eyes. You know, Drew Brees is a master looking off safeties. We've talked about that before. You know, that's the kind of stuff that they look for in an offense. So, you know, that's why a guy like Taysom Hill needs a lot of work, because he has to get all that stuff down. And the best way for him to get that down is playing time. And he doesn't have that with a Drew Brees ahead of him because he's not going to get the snaps. You know, it's unfortunate. I told you this in a chat when we were watching the game. It's unfortunate that NFL Europe is gone, because a developmental league like NFL Europe would be fantastic for a guy like Taysom Hill, because he would get the playing time where he can become a better passer. That's how Kurt Warner did it. Kurt Warner played in the AFL. He played in the indoor league, did all these things to get better at his mechanics and get that ball out quicker and more accurately, because he started to see the windows and how much time he had. So he knew in his clock, the internal clock he had, if I do a 6-step drop, it's going to take so many seconds for me to get to that last step, that 6th and 7th step. It's that each step is time. And it takes that much time for a receiver to run his route. And I'm going to throw this ball to this spot because a defensive back is going to break off there and pass him off to the safety, you know, and I'll know I can put the ball there. Or if the defensive back is playing man coverage, I'm going to know where I have to put that ball to throw that guy open. I'm going to put it in front of him. I'll put it behind him. Wherever that defensive back struggles covering best, that's where I'm going to put that ball. So, you know, that's what he needs. He needs that time where he can develop he can perfect, I should say, his passing skills. So, you know, Savage is ahead of him in that point. Savage puts that ball in a better place more consistently than Taysom Hill does. It's not that he's a better player. He's just more polished than Hill is right now.
I think you're going to see the emergence of Tom Savage. He's not going to supplant Drew Brees as a starting quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that the time that he has spent in New Orleans with a quote-unquote quarterback guru like Sean Payton is going to put him in a way better place than he ever was coming out of Houston.
Well, he does have a system that's more friendly than what Houston had for his skill set. Okay, and this is what I was talking about with Ben with Deshaun Watson earlier. Deshaun Watson was playing based off of his own athletic ability. You know, the defensive breakdown, and he was just playing how he knows how to play football. You know, in a more what's going to happen to him this year now? Our defense is going to be more structured to stop somebody like him, take away the things he likes to do. We don't know yet. I mean, we'll find out. A 4-game or 5-game resume is not enough really to really get good film on somebody, but they'll learn some things about him, what he likes to do. And, you know, that's why you see a lot of rookies have that instant success and then kind of fall back. And some of them collapse. Some of them don't get any better. Like you think like a guy like a Rick Meyer, you know, they found out real quick. Well, no, it's true. Rick Meyer actually outplayed Drew Bledsoe his rookie year. But then they found out Rick Meyer doesn't like to throw to his left. And they found that out by looking at film. So what did they do? They started making him throw to his left. And that's where his career unraveled, because he had the skills, but he didn't have the makeup or the consistency to overcome what once defenses took away what he liked to do. The playbook contracted for him, whereas it expanded for a guy like Drew Bledsoe. So that's the kind of stuff. That's why you see the wild swings. And going back to the first thing we talked about, that's why an idiot like Chris Sims shouldn't put somebody like that in the top 10 list yet. Let this guy develop and put a resume together first before you start putting him in a top 10 list. I know you want to be trendy. I know you want to be cool because it's a trendy and cool thing to include these young up-and-coming stars. But, RG3 looked awesome his rookie year, but he never got any better. And it was more than just the injuries. He just never got any better. I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I mean, let's I was going to say we should jump to the last couple of things that we have on our list here. You asked me in the list that we put together, how is this game Thursday night going to be compared to the game we play? I just was looking at it in October. November 4th, when we play the Rams in the Dome. I'm going to say night and day. No one's going to remember this game.
Peyton is not going to give them anything that they can key off of or use against him in November. Like, for example, 2-point conversions, onside kicks, fake punts.
Oh, he may do all that. He may do all that again. And that's just stuff they got to prepare for. It doesn't mean that he's going to run that in November. But I think that was part of all the 2-point conversions plays they were running.
Yeah.
Saturday night. That was just, now you got film to look at. Chris Van was aggravated because he got trying to run the bubble screen and the little, I almost want to call it a dig route, but it's more of it's a one step and then cut inside route that Michael Thomas runs, almost like a screen. He's like, man, why do they keep running that? He can't run that route. I'm like, because it's preseason. You can run that. You can do that kind of stuff preseason because now they got film on it. Now they have to be aware. You know what? They might run a bubble screen with him with Michael Thomas in the slot, and they'll jump the bubble screen and it's a slant and go, or it's something like that. You never know. I mean, it's just one more thing, and I think they said that Tony Romo said that last year. We're talking about the Patriots. That sometimes Bill Belichick runs plays he knows aren't going to work. He knows that he's never going to use again, but it's on film, and you got to prepare for it.
That's right. You got to be ready for it, whether you see it or not.
Yeah, because you never know if he's really going to do this or not. It's just.
Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We're getting close to our cutoff point.
Oh,
yeah. We want to invite you guys. Special by us invitation, if you will. Our season kickoff special. We still want to hear from everyone and tell us a real cool, catchy name to a brand to put on this. Saturday, September the 8th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are going to have, I don't know, it'll be our third year, our third kickoff special, and probably our most star-studded. Of course, I'm using that term loosely. We're going to, from the Atlanta Falcons, we'll have Josh Schultz. From the C3 podcast, we will invite back Cody Latchney. And from the Buck What You Heard podcast, our buddy Gene Thomas. We will have our NFC South roundtable as we always do. And prior to that, our first hour, very special guest, former Saints middle linebacker Jolon Dunbar will be our guest. We're really looking forward to that. Did I forget anything?
No, that's everything. I mean, Jolon Dunbar is the the roundtable is going to be fun. It's great having those guys back on. But I really want everybody to listen to the Joe Lon Dunbar segment because, it's great to get perspective from a former player. We'll talk to him a little bit about what it was like to play for the Saints, what it was like what the coaching staff was like to him, and compare that to the other teams because he bounced around the league a little bit. So yeah, that's the exciting part of the show. So we really hope you stay and listen to that part. Then of course listen to the round table where we talk about and brag about and insult each other in our respective teams.
Poor Josh, man. Everybody, for some reason, I love Josh Schultz to death. He's a friend of mine from a long while ago. But he has to have skin like Kevlar, because anytime we do one of these NFC South roundtable things, everybody turns on the Falcons, as they should. And he just, he takes it with a grain of salt and he smiles and he goes on about his business. I'm really looking forward to doing our third season kickoff, and then the following day,
opening day,
man.
Hey, here's the thing too. I just realized this. We're doing this show next weekend, not this weekend coming up. So Atlanta will have already taken a loss when we do the show because they play the Eagles on Thursday night. So that's going to be even more fun talking about that.
I wonder if that'll come up in the conversation.
Oh, I'm sure several times. So
we'll be doing 2 shows next week then.
Yeah. I would enjoy. I wish I had a Bobby Hebert jersey and we could be side by side for that thing, because I'd have you wear your Ingram jersey and you'd be on this side of me, and I'll wear my Bobby Hebert jersey, and you'll be 28 and I'll be 3, and we could just sit here and see how long it takes him to catch that. We'll just sit here.
Well, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. We'll hold on to that one.
That would be awesome to do. It'd have to be all in person though. We couldn't just do it, via the internet. We'd have to be, sitting at a real round table and having a camera, and we'll just sit there and just see how long it would take him to catch on.
All right. Well, we thank everyone for joining us tonight, man. Absolutely. We love you guys all. We'll see you guys again next Tuesday night.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for sticking with us, and I've got a new power cord, so hopefully I won't go to sleep on you guys again like I did this one. That freaked me out. So anyway, working fine now, so thank y'all for sticking with us, and good night, everybody.